Today we're looking at 10 profession tips that can help you make your millions in Dragonflight. Some of these are extremely useful and have saved me literally millions of gold in crafting costs so far, and some are fairly niche. Anyway, let's get into it. First things up, and we're looking at profession gear. Some information first so that we're all on the same level. You have 3 bits of profession gear for each profession, 2 of these are accessories and one of them is the profession tool. You can tell which one is the profession tool as this is the one in the top right hand corner of the profession UI. The profession accessories are not customizable at all, they are fixed stats that cannot be changed. All you are doing with these is trying to get the best quality you possibly can so that you've got as many stats on them as possible. The profession tool is very different. It rolls a large amount of a single random stat out of inspiration, crafting speed, multi-crafting and resourcefulness. You can however guarantee the stat you want by using missives. It can also be enchanted with either bonus inspiration or resourcefulness. Basically what we have with the crafting tool then is a huge amount of customizable profession stats. This can vary your inspiration, multi-craft and resourcefulness by over 10% from this alone. This is important because you need to be using the right profession tool for the right job. After my last video, I know a lot of you are running profession tools with both inspiration stat and an inspiration enchant because this is the most powerful combination at this stage of the expansion, but you shouldn't be using this all the time if you want to make the most possible gold. If you look at a particular item in the profession UI, you can see what profession stats actually affect that craft. For example here, with these alchemy transmutes, there is no inspiration, so inspiration gives absolutely no benefit whatsoever when making these. In this situation, if I switched away from my inspiration profession tool to one that concentrated on multi-crafting or resourcefulness, then that's going to make a huge difference on the amount of gold I make when crafting this item. As you get more and more knowledge points, this can also affect items that have quality too. For example, let's jump onto my engineer, but the examples I give here are valid for all professions. We see here an Arclight capacitor with a recipe difficulty of 350 and I have 258 skill. The only way I'm ever getting rank 3s here is with an inspiration proc, so I use my profession tool that has tons to get me inspiration to 28%. If we look at some other crafting regions, you can see that my profession skill is much higher than the recipe difficulty, whatever quality materials I use. At this point, this 28% inspiration is useless for these crafts as I'm going to produce the highest quality no matter what. If I switch to my multi-crafting tool, which has a resourcefulness enchant, this is going to increase my multi-craft by about 10% and my resourcefulness by almost 5% when crafting these. This is a huge difference in how much it costs to produce these and something that you really need to be thinking about when you're doing these sorts of crafts in most professions. Lastly, we look at greased up gears. Soon I'll be able to switch from an inspiration to a multi-crafting or resourcefulness tool and still get guaranteed rank 3 crafts. I showed you this to make you aware to keep an eye on things that you are crafting, as over time things will get easier and you'll be able to switch tools on more and more things. Having multiple tools also has the benefit of giving you more flexibility as well. For example, just because you can inspiration proc the highest rank on something doesn't mean you always want to, because multi-crafting can be better in some circumstances. Crafting orders are pretty sucky for making gold as you're completely at the mercy of the buyer's tip, but we can turn things in our favour as a seller to make more gold from these. If you get a resourcefulness proc while crafting a work order, you get to keep any materials that get saved from the craft, and to me this could be one of the best ways to make gold from public work orders. I have had procs worth nearly 10,000 gold on a craft that I was doing for free basically for profession skill ups. If you really wanted to, you could combine this with the last tip and have a profession tool that you use for work orders that is stacked with resourcefulness, which could also be used for your weekly work orders too. To go so far as to get a rare profession tool with a top resourcefulness enchant, I think you'd need to be doing a lot of work orders for that to pay for itself, but an uncommon one with a budget enchant could be worth the effort. Knowledge points next. By now most of you know that there's profession masters and treasures that you can get loads of one-time knowledge from. Judging by the comments on my recent videos, there's still a lot of people that don't know about these, so I've linked the WoW articles in the description below for those that don't know what I'm talking about. Most of you probably know that you can pick up items from dirt piles, chests, expedition packs, etc. that give you +1 knowledge. I have mentioned this here because it was widely reported that these were one-time loot, and I thought this for a little while too because of it. It did however become clear that this was not the case, and now it's confirmed that you can actually pick up 2 of these per week for each profession from these treasures. In addition to all this, you can also pick up 2 further items that give +1 knowledge per week from killing certain mobs in the world. I'm not going to include every single profession, mob and location, but I've linked a fantastic Reddit guide in the description below that tells you where you can go and get each of these every week. Another way to get knowledge points that you perhaps haven't thought of is first time crafts through Dragonflight recipes bought from the auction house. I have picked up several for less than 100 gold each, especially on higher population realms, so this is well worth looking at as a cheap and easy way to pick up some knowledge points. I was going to do a full video about power leveling professions all the way to 100 in Dragonflight, but Manfius beat me to it using the same method, so I abandoned that video in favour of this one. That being said, it did still deserve its place in here, even if it doesn't get a full video to itself. The main thing to take note of is that when you recraft something, it gives you the same skill ups as if you just crafted it, but it costs significantly less resources doing it this way. This is especially true for resources that are bound to your character. For example, if you are recrafting a piece of rare profession gear, it only costs 5 Artisan Mettle for a recraft instead of 2 to 300 for the original craft. To power level a profession, you're going to do this one of 2 ways. You'll buy an epic recipe from the auction house, and these can take you all the way to 100 skill. And one of your alts is going to get your main to initially craft it for them, and then recraft it as many times as you want profession skill points via personal crafting orders. Another way of doing this, if you have some decent reputation on the character, is to pick up some rare profession gear recipes from the various factions and spam recraft these for your alts too. Whichever way you're going to do this, it is going to take you a chunk of gold and some bind on pickup resources, but you can do this completely solo on your own account. It is worth noting that just because you can power level your profession without relying on other players, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. If you need more skill and you want to do it, then that's a solid enough reason for doing so, but there's no point in leveling something just for the sake of it. Just make sure you're getting some benefit from doing this before you commit your time and gold to doing this, as not every profession spec needs those extra skill points. Now, if you're like me and you play in a low population realm on the US region, getting decent profession gear is really difficult. You just don't generally have the level of crafters that you do on the bigger servers. The easiest way I found to get decent profession gear is through recrafting again and fishing for inspiration procs. With an inspiration proc, you can usually upgrade your gear by 1, and this should be a fairly reliable way to get rank 4 profession gear on a lower population server. Getting rank 5 is probably impossible on these servers at the moment, but you should still be able to make yourself competitive enough with the crafters on the highest population servers by doing this. Artisan's Mettle is a bind on pickup resource that is used for a few crafting related things, but mostly we use it for crafting profession gear. Now, because this is bind on pickup, you would think you'd not be able to trade this between your characters, but you sort of can. Artisan Mettle is not a mandatory material when using personal crafting orders, so what this means is that you don't necessarily have to use the Artisan's Mettle on certain characters. For example, what I was doing with my tailor was important, but I was really short on Artisan's Mettle. I really needed all the rare profession gear, so one of my alts leveled up tailoring, unlocked the dragon cloth profession gear, and used his own Artisan's Mettle to craft it for that main tailor. I have also started to find that I'm getting an excess of Artisan's Mettle on my main characters as well from the amount of dragon shards I've been getting, so you could also use this for crafting stuff for your alts if you wanted to too. In addition to doing all this, I've not actually tried doing this yet, but this also opens up the possibility that you could effectively sell Artisan's Mettle via personal work orders if you wanted to too, by crafting rare profession gear for people in trade chat. Now, I know a lot of you are running inspiration builds following the last video I did. Alchemy can make a consumable that you can get from the auction house that buffs inspiration by around 2% for up to 30 minutes. This consumable is a bit weird, as you basically dump it on the ground and all the crafters in the vicinity get the bonus. This can actually make you a huge amount of gold if you think about the maths behind it. If you are crafting 100 of something and an inspiration proc is worth 5,000 gold to you, then on average you'll get 2 extra inspiration procs, so that's 10,000 extra gold. If you're going to be crafting for the full 30-minute duration, then the amount of value that you can get from buying these can get pretty insane. I have had times where I know that these have made me hundreds of thousands of gold in the 30-minute duration. Now those sort of days have gone now, but these are a really extremely useful tool if you are running that inspiration build. Obviously before you use these, check how much benefit you will get before actually investing in them. If you're just crafting 10 of something, then it's definitely not worth the effort. Not something that's going to increase the amount of gold you make, but there is also a quality of life consumable as well. The Vial of the Quick Hands, this increases your crafting speed by 30% for 30 minutes at rank 3. I've just mentioned this because this is really cheap on the auction house. You can pick these up for about 100 gold for a rank 3, and if you're going to be crafting a huge amount of something, then it is perhaps worth the effort. Last thing to talk about is perhaps a little tip using the inspiration crafting build I talked about in the last video. When you use the inspiration build, you have a situation where you don't actually need a skill that is that high to produce the highest quality crafts. Therefore, a lot of the time you're able to use lower quality materials and reagents, especially as you get more knowledge points. As well as using the inspiration build to be able to produce rank 3 finished goods, you can also use this build to cut down on the cost of certain reagents to further increase your profit margins. I'm referring in particular to intermediate crafts. This is something that you make with your profession to be able to make something else, like vibrant wilder cloth for tailoring, or about 50 different things with engineering. We will use vibrant wilder cloth as an example, as that's the one that most people will be familiar with. You go to the auction house and you can see that the rank 2 vibrant wilder cloth is actually costing less than it costs to make, so it makes sense that you just buy it directly from the auction house rather than making it yourself and saving yourself some time. This is a reasonable assumption, but you'd have made a mistake that could have drastically cut down on your crafting costs. At the time this was recorded, the cost of a vibrant wilder cloth craft is about 50 gold. The rank 2s at the auction house are 35 gold. This means that if we wanted to get 700 vibrant wilder cloth, that would cost us around 24.5k. Now instead of that, I'm going to spend twice as much, go to the auction house and spend 50,000 gold to buy the materials to craft 1,000 vibrant wilder cloth myself. Now of course we are making sure that we can get rank 3 procs from these, and let's assume a 25% inspiration proc rate. That means that from our 1,000 crafts we get around 250 rank 3s and 750 rank 2s. You can see here that the price of rank 3s is 200 gold each, so that means we can sell those 250 rank 3s for 50k gold, exactly the amount we invested to do the crafting. We sell the rank 3s and we have all our gold back, so what we've been left with is basically 750 vibrant wilder cloth rank 2s that we've effectively got for free. Now it doesn't happen like this very often. Most of the time you'll just be able to get enough gold back from the rank 3s to cut down on the crafting costs of the rank 2s to just below the auction house price for them. You do need to check the maths before doing this, and if you're not sure, I'd be staying away from it, but if you can get this working for you, then it's another really great use for the inspiration build. This tip in particular is one that I've just found really useful. It's really cut down on my crafting costs, and I'm making things at profit that other people are saying are not profitable at all because of it. Anyway, that's just a load of tips that I had that I just wanted to put all into one video, into one place. Hopefully it's helpful guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.